Kirby, that's name you should know. Kirby, he's turned 30. Yes, Kirby has turned 30 years old this year, which is really wild to think. Ever since Return to Dreamland, Kirby fans have been eating really well with a lot of great spin-offs and main series games. During the 3DS era, Kirby had several games released, like Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot. Really good side-scrolling 2D platformers for the 3DS, with Planet Robobot being probably one of the best Kirby games. And with the release of the brand new console, the Nintendo Switch, HAL went straight forward for a brand new Kirby game on this console. And during 2017, Nintendo had their strongest E3 presence yet, with one of the games being a brand new Kirby game for the Switch. This game ended up being Kirby Star Allies, which released in 2018 with alright reviews at the time. While people did consider this game as a pretty good game, it was definitely weaker compared to previous entries. So once Kirby Star Allies released, HAL went straight forward to a brand new game. But with this one, they decided to shake things up drastically for the series. So for about 3 decades, Kirby has always been a 2D platformer. There has been experimentations of making Kirby into 3D during the GameCube era, but those games eventually got cancelled. There were spin-offs on the 3DS, but they were spin-offs. And then September of 2021, we finally get the reveal of a brand new Kirby game that's a fully 3D platformer. This was a huge deal for the Kirby series because they're finally evolving the same formula that they've been doing for years. So kudos Kirby, you have finally became to the big leagues. But with that out of the way, let's get started. So the game starts with Kirby relaxing in a pop star flying around in his warp star. Suddenly, a mysterious vortex appears in the sky, sucking everything in its path. Kirby was unfortunately one of the people that got stuck into the vortex, and once he woke up, he finds himself in a mysterious beach, and once he travels through the woods, he finds himself in a mysterious city that's abandoned. Eventually, as Kirby explores through the area and swallow an entire car, he finds himself in an area where a bunch of wallabies are being captured. Among all the people in the wreckage is this mysterious little creature named Elflin, who is also being captured. Kirby was able to save him with ease, but the wallabies have been scattered across this world. And thus, it's up to Kirby to save the wallabies and figure out how to find a way home. The story is pretty simple but straight to the point. It gets a bit more interesting to the end, but I'll save that to a little bit later in the video. So now, for the gameplay. This game is pretty much like traditional Kirby gameplay, but in 3D. Kirby can do his traditional movement, he can run, jump, float, and then inhale. He also has this new little feature, if you dodge an enemy's attack, you'll go slow motion where you can do a flurry of attacks. While Kirby does control the same, there has been a few adjustments to compensate him in 3D. Kirby can still hover in this game, but it kind of works similar to Kirby 64. Kirby can still hover, but he has a certain limit on how far he can fly. There's also a limit on how long he can fly as well. I honestly like this change because it helps the challenge in certain areas very balanced. Kirby's copy abilities return from previous games, however the selection of this game is far more limited compared to other games. I don't really mind this because what they did with the copy abilities in this game is pretty damn interesting. So in Forgotten Land, Kirby's trademark copy abilities are able to upgrade to stronger abilities. Like for example, Kirby still has his usual hammer, but once you fully upgrade it, he can deal 2 hammers that can do very powerful damage. How to upgrade the abilities is pretty simple. In the overworld, there are some certain portals that Kirby can go into to do some small challenges. Once he completes one of these challenges, he obtains a rare stone that he can trade in for a special new ability. And the challenges themselves are really fun, they take full advantage of certain copy abilities. Now that's just mostly about the main gameplay. As for the level design, well, here's how it goes. So the main idea of the game is to save the wallabies. In each level, there is about 10 wallabies in there. You get 3 of them once you clear the level, but you need to do certain missions to save them. These can either be stuff like getting certain items or going to a specific area of the level. You are going to need a certain amount of wallabies to progress with. And as for the level designs themselves, well, they're honestly really good for Kirby's first 3D outing. And despite it being a bit easy, this is still a Kirby game, it is a bit more challenging compared to other Kirby games, which is always nice. And this is such a contrast compared to Star Allies, which is Kirby's last game, which is criticized for being way too easy. Weirdly enough, some of the level design aspects kinda make me think of Crash Bandicoot in a way. I mean, when you start the game, Kirby wakes up on the beach kinda like Crash, and in a certain area, he runs away from a boulder. Now, I'm not saying it's as difficult as Crash, because it's clearly not. Because when it comes to a Crash Bandicoot game or a Donkey Kong Country game, there's 2 sets of difficulties for every level. The first difficulty is just going from point A to point B. The difficulty itself will vary on the level design, but overall it is pretty easy going through. The harder difficulty is trying to collect everything in a level, and the difficulty will be a lot harder depending on the criteria they'll do. So yeah, you get to choose how challenging you want to be. And since I'm a platformer guy, that means I have to 100% everything in the game. But anyway, I feel like it's time for us to go to the hub world. If you're getting a bit tired from going from level, you can always rest at the Waddle Dee town. This is an area where it gradually grows every time you unlock a certain amount of Waddle Dees. There's a lot of things you can do, like upgrade your abilities and do some minigames. The first minigame is where Kirby's working at a restaurant giving out orders, which hits me on the personal level because I work at Kroger these days. And Kirby is clearly not feeling the rush hour as well. The second one is pretty much a little fishing minigame, there's really not that much to talk about. And the last one is a similar game to Tilt and Tumble. Eventually, as you save enough Waddle Dees, you can unlock a stadium where you can do a boss rush mode. There you'll have a fight with Meta Knight, which is always nice. You can also have Bandit D playable in this game as the second player, so you can play with another person. And lastly, I should mention the main gimmick of this game, Mouthful Mode. So in each area, there's a certain object that Kirby can inhale and swallow. Well, try to. He eventually just dangles onto the item and can do a special ability with it. It's so ridiculous, yet very adorable in some aspects. It's great. So you're going to need to use these items to get through the level, like using a staircase or a giant light bulb, for example. It gives a good amount of variety in this game, which is always great. And speaking of variety, the worlds and settings Kirby goes to is really stellar and very unique for the series. Kirby goes through abandoned cities and malls, he goes to an ocean area, he goes into a desert, and he goes to a freaking carnival. My favorite area has to be the snow world because, 1, I'm a sucker for snow worlds, and 2, I really love the whites and colors of everything. It's very nice. And graphically and aesthetically, this game looks really good. It's honestly the best looking game I've seen on Switch this year. The Switch's hardware may be very dated these days, but games like this, Xenoblade 3, and Mario Strikers shows that you can really do great presentation on this console still. Kirby games always look very nice, especially on the 3DS, but this game looks very good, and the 3D environments really gives this game a lot more depth compared to other games. And once it's a nighttime sky and everything, it is very pleasing, especially with the lighting and bloom. The carnival area looks top notch. And the music. My god, the music in this game is very stellar, just like most Kirby games. I like how the main instrument of this game is the electric guitar, which really shows the wild area of this game. I think my favorite soundtrack in this game is easily the freaking boss fight for King Dedede. This is honestly the best rendition of King Dedede's theme song, and one of my favorite boss music of all time now. Just listen to the song, it goes very hard. And since we're going on with King Dedede, I've gotta say, I really love his brand new design. Since the revival era of Kirby, you could tell that HAL was having a bit of a hard time designing King Dedede. With Return to Dreamland, he looked like this, while in the 3DS series, he looked like this. And when we get to the Switch, they gave him a brand new design where he looked like this, and this. And now in Forgotten Land, he has a brand new design, and I feel like they finally have an idea what King Dedede should look like going forward. His brand new design is reminiscent on his N64 design, which is always nice. I really like Kirby 64. Since we're going on with this boss fight, I should also talk about the bosses in this game. So the main antagonists in this game are the Beast Pack, and there are various big minions you have to go through. The first one is this giant gorilla where Kirby attacks him by the feet. What I like about the bosses is that for some of them, they have a certain ability that is their weakness. Like for example, if you use the ice ability for the gorilla, it takes out a massive chunk. The second one is another version of Wispy Woods. What's interesting this time is that for this version, he does not use the apples, but his vines, which shake things up for a boss fight that's been around for 30 years. In World 3, Kirby goes into a circus tent where he finds Clawring. As the name suggests, she uses her claws to swipe Kirby. She also climbs up on this pole to throw knives at Kirby, so it's best to use the brand new Ranger ability on her. And the last one before we get to the end game is King Dedede. It's a King Dedede boss fight, so it's great. And this is the part where the story aspect of this game picks up. So once you finish beating up King Dedede, he then kidnaps Elfin from Kirby. With no time to lose, Kirby then rushes off to the next island, where he finds himself in a mysterious volcano lair. Not before beating the hell out of this guy. What the heck is this thing? And why does he have a lot of creepy dolls? But anyways, so eventually he finds himself in the heart of the area with King Dedede. After a cool-ass King Dedede remix, King Dedede is finally freed from the wild. However, the guards have realized that King Dedede is no longer under their control, so they then charge after them. They then try to rush to the elevator before Wildie trips and falls. King Dedede then saves the Wildie, but it's left behind. So we all know during the revival era of Kirby that started with Return to Dreamland is that they try to add a lot more world building to Kirby. A lot of it's pretty subtle, but here it's a lot more talked about. And surprisingly, there is full-on voice acting in this game at the end. So when they enter the elevator, they triggered a tourist attraction PA. Here they tell us a lot about their world's history on how they're going to awaken a mysterious entity. However, the entity got split into two pieces, with one of them being missing. I think you all know what's going on. And it's also revealed why the Wildies have been taken. They needed power to the machine, so they have a bunch of Wildies and these little hamster wheels to run the power for the area. And this is when we get introduced to the main villain of this entire game, Leongar. He then tells Kirby that he needs Elfin to awaken this entity, which he dubs the Ultimate Life Form. And sorry Leonard, that is not the Ultimate Life Form. This is the Ultimate Life Form, that is not. So eventually, as you defeat Leon, the entity then speaks through him. He then states how everything of his plan has been ruined thanks to Kirby. So now he only has one thing to do, which is to consume all. And that's what he did, as he absorbs every single enemy in the area, which leaves Kirby and Elfin running away from their lives. And holy crap, this is freaking terrifying. This feels like something out of Resident Evil 2. So as Kirby tries to attack the thing, it then grabs Elfin and absorbs him. It then rushes up to the rooftop, so with no time to spare, Kirby rushes up. On top of the rooftop, he confronts with the main entity that caused him to be transported to this weird world, Fecto Elfis. And this guy is extremely powerful. And this guy is able to open dimensions freely to attack him with meteor showers. After taking this thing down, he was able to free Elfin from its control, so he has one last move. He decides to use Kirby's home planet as a meteor shower to attack him. All seems lost when a big rig appears, so Kirby has one thing left to do. Kirby was able to defeat the entity, but everything is still coming together. Elfin then decides to use his power to prevent the worlds colliding. The world is saved, but Kirby lost a new friend, for about 5 seconds. And that concludes Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And overall, it was honestly a really good platformer altogether. The presentation of this game is really good, and the level design in this game is really top notch. The game might not be the hardest game in the world, but it's still a really fun game. And it's really surreal to see Kirby finally jumping into the world of 3D. And perfect timing too, because we're in an era where full-on 3D platformers are coming back and dead franchises are reviving. However, if you want a bit more meat on your bones, there are post-game stuff like the stadium area where you can go to the harder version, or you could do the brand new world where Kirby enters a mysterious dimension. However, this mostly comes across of remix areas you've already been through to get collectibles, but it's still a really fun pace. This is honestly one of the best Kirby games we have ever gotten since Baby Planet Robobot. And this was one hell of a game to celebrate Kirby's 30th anniversary. Kirby was eating really good this year as he got a full-on 3D game, a nice spin-off, and a full remake of one of his earlier games. And I gotta say, I am really excited that they're actually remaking Return to Dreamland because that is honestly my favorite 2D Kirby. But anyway, so we're at the end of the year of 2022, so I decided to make one more video to end things off. So for the next video, we're going to be talking about Sonic Frontiers. Now, this is a game I'm really excited to talk about. But that'll do for today, so thank you for watching and I'll see you later. Bye-bye!